Good evening, everybody. Ben Williams here, 100 Proof Whitetails Podcast. Little solo show action tonight. Gonna check some audio. Gonna do some troubleshooting here for 2026. We had some issues overlaying Facebook feed, so we're gonna try to fix that tonight, as well as just have kind of an open live Q&A, um, and just kind of rolling through it with that. So I want to keep the content rolling this year. I'm gonna roll the show out just like we always do. Want to give the shout out to the sponsors as we start the show, right up in this corner right here. It's really close tonight. Busy Bee Chiropractic and Wellness in Newark, New York. Go see Dr. Britt. I have my appointment next week for a adjustment and a sauna. They have a nutritionist on site. They have a whole bunch of other services that they offer. So Dr. Britt and Busy Bee in Newark, New York. Go check them out and get feeling better today. We'll see how many people tune into this tonight with the Verizon outage, as you guys can tell in the title. Also, we got M&R Firewood here in Phelps, New York. Check them out there on Main Street 96, going out of town, headed east, going back toward Waterloo Way and Clyde Way, going down 96. Check them out for all of your campfire bundle needs. They sell seasoned firewood as well, smoking wood, you name it. M&R Firewood, big supporters of the show. Thank them very much. Pierce Metalworks, my right hand and co-host Nate Pierce. Um, he's home tonight, probably working in the shop. We'll see. Maybe he's tuning into this. I'm not sure. But for all of your metal fabrication, welding needs, machine work, anything like that, the dude does it all. You can come up with something, he's going to figure it out and make it work for you. So, big shout out to Pierce Metalworks for always supporting the show and being the usually the other half of the conversation. So, Phelps Fire Hall and Fire Department, keeping us safe out there and keeping our homes and everything in check when we need them. They had a dryer fire at my house that they responded to several years back, and good reminder for folks this time of the year. When we got these little seasonal warm-ups, make sure you're cleaning out those dryers every year if possible. So I just did mine the other day, and a good reminder for Phelps Fire Department. They also have a venue there that you can rent out for events, tables and chairs on site. So they got a nice little clubhouse there with pool, darts, that kind of stuff. Great place to have uh, family get together, parties, family reunions, anything like that. It's a great place for that. Big, um, vast space, lots of parking, everything like that. So contact Phelps Fire Department if you're interested in renting that space. Heritage Outdoor Sports, there's a couple spots for winter leagues. Me and Nate aren't available to do it this year. We got signed up for it. We didn't know. But go over to Heritage Outdoor Sports, couple highlights for them. They do work on any brand of bows. Doesn't matter if it's a bow that brand that they carry or not. Want to give that little public disclaimer right now. They work on any kind of bow or crossbow. They'll work with those manufacturers to get those parts and get those bows fixed for you to the highest quality and standard. So, got the winter leagues going right now, getting ready for summer leagues. It's going to be right around the corner. We're going to be outside and it's going to be nice and warm. So, I'm looking forward to the 3D outdoor season. I'm just too jam packed right now for the winter time with everything going on. So, but Heritage Outdoor Sports also just became a Tacticam dealer for everybody that does the cell cam stuff. Um, Not really my cup of tea, but they do. There's a security camera, island capper. So even if you're putting it at your camp for remote security purposes, anything like that, they are an authorized Tacticam dealer. They have a full stocked inventory, and there's going to be a special trade-in deal, I believe, with Tacticams too coming out. I think they already do it to some extent, so stay tuned for more information on that with Tacticam and Heritage. So thanks, Mike, for the support and always appreciate it. And right here in Phelps, New York as well. Whitetail Properties Real Estate, serving New York, most of the country, 40 plus states right now. Um, Finger Lakes team is Tim Kent, agent of territory, Heather Kent, his wife, and then me, Ben Williams, helping folks buy and sell real estate throughout the Finger Lakes region and throughout the rest of the state with the Western New York team, Central New York team, and then everybody out in the Hudson Valley and downstate area as well. All those folks, can't wait to see them at our state sales meeting here in a little over a month and a half. So It's coming right up around the corner too. Good kickoff going into the spring months for us for the Whitetail Properties team in New York. Um, but yeah, so if anybody's interested in buying or selling, we're going to talk a little bit real estate tonight. So if you guys have any real estate questions when it comes to buying or selling, I would love to answer them on the show tonight. We're going to dive into some habitat stuff, some of the goals going forward for 2026 for myself, and kind of where we see stuff going in the future with the podcast and everything too. So yeah, and then 100 Proof Whitetails podcast. So this is episode 84 since we've rebranded and made our new name and everything like that. So it's been many years in the making. I keep saying we're going to look back on it and wonder when. Maybe we'll put like a little established logo in the bottom of it or something like that. So um, definitely want to thank everybody for all the support over the years and everything like that from the name change from the get-go. I used to do these live shows way back when, just on Facebook really, but since then we've escalated to having the streaming service and then having the podcast platform. So if you're checking us out on the podcast platform, please let us know. We love to hear where you're hearing the show on, whether it's Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever you're listening to it on. And if you don't or can't find us on the network that you listen to your podcast on, let us know so we can figure out how to get over on that podcast platform for you folks. Yeah, so a lot of stuff going on. Just erased my whiteboard for 2026. This is my office whiteboard. I'm in the office tonight, trying to catch up on a few things here and there. Nate, like I said, he's grinding in his shop tonight. Everybody's kind of being all over the place with stuff. So I know we're going to have some intermittent kind of viewing tonight because of the outage. So unless you're tuning in on Wi-Fi, or if you're not in one of the dead zones, maybe you're good. LS3438 on YouTube says still down in Southern Virginia. Yeah, so apparently it's not just New York and the Finger Lakes. We're kind of, it sounds like it's kind of a spotty nationwide outage, which is kind of wild. So anyway, so yeah, so we're talking habitat, we're talking real estate, everything like that tonight. So some of our plans coming up for this off season, we've already talked about them. There's a new county planter this year. It's going to be available. So whether we'll use the 10-foot in combination with the 6-foot for a lot of our no-till planting this year, we'll see how that kind of shakes out. Probably in combination of the 6-footer, we can get into more places and stuff like that. And I think it'll come in handy if we got to drill in some grain late, especially if we got to get it into certain spots, drop it and go kind of deal. The 10-footer maybe for the big plots, the corn, because I like to drill it down with some extra weight. So yeah, so we got the 10-foot probably and the 6-foot available this year. That's brand new, the 6-footer this year, so I'm looking forward to working out some kinks with that one and getting that one kind of figured out this year going forward. For the food plot side of stuff, we got to get some more grain on the ground. Hopefully the weather cooperates with us this year. We do have a lot of stuff rolling into new perennial clovers and stuff like that for a couple of our plots. So kind of just into that rotational session with a lot of these fields, getting that cereal grain clover rotation kind of rotated back into the program as we're kind of rotating out of some of the grain, Nebraska and stuff like that. But we do have some grain that was scheduled to go in that just got planted into cereal grains this past year, so we'll probably flip the clock back. Hopefully the weather will cooperate with us. I don't know if we're going to do any buckwheat and or any like soil building blends. We are due for a soil test this year, so that's another thing we'll be doing is videos on soil testing. I know Nate's got a whole new plot that he's looking to establish, so we're going to have some video content on that hopefully, on the 100 Proof page specifically. And then we'll have probably the steps on that, how he's going about it, soil testing, the reason why, the design, all that kind of stuff going into it. You know, just kind of looking at all different pieces of it to try to help folks that are in all different situations. Like me and Nate kind of say, I'm kind of the person that has a piece of property, a family piece of property that I can hunt. He has leases or permission farms, or guest properties that he comes and hunts at and stuff like that. So we kind of look at it at different angles and different lenses, which is really nice for the conversation. So I miss having my right hand man. It's been a while since I've done a solo show. But yeah, so with that going on this year, hopefully Mother Nature cooperates a little bit. And on the flip side of that, hopefully we get some cold temps here coming up. I know we're supposed to be changing over to snow right now. We got some rain coming. It's been raining quite a bit this afternoon, but we got some snow coming and some colder temps, it looks like. Hoping we start to get a solid freeze because we got a timber harvest tentatively scheduled for this winter. The timber has all been marked in the main woodlot, and then we're going to kind of go to some of the little outlying areas, the smaller woodlot sections, the specialty wood sections, and kind of pick them apart a little bit too once they kind of roll in and stuff like that. And if they got to pull out because the roads are getting bad or whatever, we can go kind of hop a little bit around the property and still be effective with the time that they're there. So it's going to be a pretty quick cut. Should be hopefully in and out, and I'm thinking a month or less, depending on conditions. But conditions are everything. We won't know till we start getting into it. Just like last year when we were doing the pond project, we got rained out and thawed out in the late wintertime, and unfortunately, kind of had to pull the plug on it. Was just getting too much hassle for benefit. But the nice thing was we got a lot of trail work done, got some plot extensions done as well when we pulled off the pond. So those were goals for the project too, but the pond didn't get exactly finished because we had to switch gears and kind of always be adjusting. So that's something that I want to kind of dive into a little bit, is talking about when you're looking at these projects or ideas or situations, you have to have some flexibility going into them. You have to have that, well, what happens if, this isn't working, or this changes, or that, doesn't turn out the way I want it. You have to be willing and able to slow down a little bit once in a while, kind of take that step back. Maybe it's at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day, and kind of look at the scope of what you've accomplished, and what you got going on, and then kind of go make your decisions going forward with the rest of it. So that's something that it's going to happen to everybody, and it always does. So um, yeah, timber harvest, food plots. I'm just looking at my list here. Um, Outdoor leagues at Heritage coming up in the summertime. So stay tuned for more information on that kind of stuff. We had the state NWTF awards banquet and Hardwood Strutters chapter here in Norm Ridley started this chapter over 30 years ago. I went to some of his Jake's days when I was just a little kid, and now I'm being able to volunteer at them. We took home 2 awards from the state awards. We took home the Jake's membership slate plaque this year. That was for the chapter. And we also took home the Outstanding Jake's chapter for the entire state. We do 2 Jake's events. The dates have been set for those, so if anybody's got kids and calendars, we'll talk about them real quick. We do our annual Jake's Day. That will be why am I drawing a blank on it? June 13th at Seneca Sportsman's Club there, just off the Thruway exit. Um, and that'll be, usually we start around 9 o'clock. It's a completely free event. There's everything from archery to the BB gun tent. There's a wildlife booth area. We've had heavy equipment operators there in the past talking to kids. People set up with duck and decoy spreads. Heritage has been there running the outdoor archery range. We have a 22 range for the older kids, trap and clay pigeon shooting. There's a fish casting section. So just a great day. Last year we were well over 100 kids at that event. This year we're looking to make it more. Pie in the sky goal, and I hope we hit it, is 200 kids this upcoming year for that. I hope we get it. I think we can do it. I just need to get some more feelers out there, and if anybody has any ideas on how to do that or wants to get involved with our chapter here for NWTF, please let me know. We're all about putting it back to the kids. That's the big main goal of our chapter, is always give back to the kids. That's why Norm started doing it 30 years ago, and why he's still doing it, today, and he's got that passion and drive for it. So, um, and Andy and everybody else that's involved with the chapter, can't say enough for everybody that comes and steps up and helps out for that. Even if it's just for that event. We have folks that come just for that event in the chapter, and then we have folks that come just for our clam bake event. So our clam bake is our main fundraiser for the year. That's September 19th this year. And then we have our second Jake/Youths Day that we kind of partner with at McDonough Park, um, or McDonough, I think it's McDonough Park, is the youth day we do. That's September 26th. That's the following Saturday after our clam bake. Norm won't be able to be there. Um, I'm going to try to be there. It's right around the um, anniversary of my wedding, so we'll see if my wife's got any plans for that. So I got to still talk to her. But yeah, that's usually our second Jake's Day. We'll have some representation there as well. Typically, we bring like the archery tent or something like that, or the archery trailer, sorry, to be able to do that stuff for those folks. But they have a pond at that one and everything. So between those two events, we're definitely going to be over 200 kids this year. But I'm hoping at 200 and then 75 plus at the National Hunting and Fishing Day one on the 26th. So I think that two great events to get youth in the outdoors, introduce folks, and some kids have never been exposed to the outdoors. There's obviously some that are volunteers, kids or nephews or something like that, but then you got kids that come there because they saw the flyer at a local library or something like that, or somebody at their church told them about it or whatever it might be. And those are just great events to get grassroots out there in the outdoors and get the next generation involved. It doesn't have to be behind a gun chasing turkeys. You never know how that's going to spark the next generation. So, and then a couple other things for the calendar. The Northeast Big Buck Club Scoring Day will be there March 21st. That's at Runnings. We'll be there scoring deer. I've scored a few this year. Got a few more to score. We're just kind of waiting to get through the drying day period for those. And sounds like we do have the results. I'm going to wait till Mike and Heritage announce them for the Big Buck contest that we did together in cooperation with Heritage and Whitetail Properties Finger Lakes team here. We're looking to grow that next year and make that a bigger and better event. We're going to probably be announcing those winners here sometime in the next week to 10 days. Maybe even do it on the next show or something like that. We'll see. Yeah, and then we got some tentatively cool shows coming up. We got Dr. Britt. We're trying to line up a show with her to talk about how you can use something like physical therapy or massage therapy, stuff like that, to keep you feeling tip-top in archery season, keep you shooting, well, keep your muscles working well throughout the year, and how that can be huge for hunters, especially because a lot of the muscles and stuff we use, if you're not shooting your bow all year round or something like that, or if you're not out trimming tree stands or whatever, some of that stuff you start to get some aches and pains. You get a little older, you start getting some aches and pains, and going to a chiropractor or somebody like that, massage therapist like they have there at Busy Bee, can have world of positive benefits for you. So we're looking forward to try and get a scheduled date with her on the show. So we're just working through the calendar, trying to get that figured out. I got two other tentative guests that I want to get confirmed that we got a date set for them, with everybody's schedule before I start like announcing or teasing. But we do have some more guests coming, localized, specialized kind of folks for this area, which is really cool. We'll probably have some fan favorites back on. I'd like to have Ryan and Dylan back on. I know they've been doing a lot of hound hunting over rabbits and stuff, so maybe have an episode on that and small gaming. I know Jesse's been out there whacking and stacking squirrels. So yeah, so just little tips and tricks on some of these other things that we do in the off season as hunters, or not off season, but off of the main hunting seasons of small game or coyote hunting over hounds or coon or whatever. I know Nate did a lot of coon hunting growing up. I never got into it very much. We never had hounds growing up. Did a lot of trapping as a kid, and I think that's where I gained a lot of my skills and my woodsmanship is, trap lining with my dad and then trap lining before school growing up. That's how I joke. I paid for my college. I paid for all my books and my laptop and that kind of stuff. I paid for that with trapping money from high school. Bought my first car with trapping money from high school. Back when you could say you could do that stuff. Probably the last generation that could be able to say that they did that. Fur prices just aren't what they used to be anymore to be able to make it a positive economic gain. Again, I didn't have any bills or anything else at that point, so everything I was doing was basically going straight to profit or straight to new traps or new equipment. Scents, I was making a lot of my own scents, and then the other thing that was real convenient is Night Owl Lures was right out of North Rose area, so was real local to go pick some up. Used to be at Bill Linder's Trapping Supply there, which was only a handful of miles from my parents' house. We'd go there, and Bill never had any hours. It was the light was on, or if it wasn't too late, he just always said knock on the door. And he had a little trapping sales shop on the front end of the house there where he lives. So learned a lot from Bill over the years with sets and ideas, and I grew up. I had coloring books that were trapping guides and stuff like that with little different sets, pictures in them and stuff. So just really cool kind of things growing up that, like I said, helped kind of shape that woodsmanship and shape um, that kind of growth and how that kind of progressed and got rolling. So, but I think that was one thing that I saw on Facebook the other day was or maybe it was today. People were asking like if you could give some advice to new hunters or new outdoorsmen, and we see a lot of them with the youth events and stuff like that, new hunters or soon-to-be hunters or outdoors, kids. And I think the biggest thing is just get outside, walk the woods, and just slow down when you're walking the woods, and learn and look and listen. Open up your eyes, your ears, and even your nose sometimes. There's times where even when I'm in the tree stand, I will smell a buck before I will see a buck coming, just because the way the wind's rolling out of a bedding area or something like that. Um, a lot of times you'll be able to see, be able to smell them before you see them. Sometimes if they're coming with the wind in the right direction. So, uh, my wife says snowshoes. If we get some snow, I mean, right now we're working on the grass growing with the 40s and 50s we've had the last couple of days. I posted a video the other day, and everybody was asking where's the snow. Um, and I guess I'll kind of piggyback a little bit on that, but that's a good comment. Snowshoes. I know you're dying to get snowshoes. Um, we don't get a ton of snowpack anymore, and we're a little bit out of the snow belt. But that was fun. We did that a couple years back when we got some pretty deep snowpacks. So I think she borrowed them from one of her programs at work, and we were able to go do it. And I think that's a great way to do it. Is if you can have a friend or family member that you can borrow them from. I think that's awesome. So, but yeah, that's a great time also to get out there in the woods this time of the year. Um, I think it's early for sheds. I know obviously there's some deer shedding. There's deer that shed in December every year. There's deer, if you want to look at it that way, there's deer that break their antlers off in October and November. So there's antlers on the ground 365 days out of the year, because no matter how much you walk the ground, or no matter how many people are out there walking the ground, there's still going to be antlers on the ground. There might be less of them, and not just us. I mean, the coyotes do a fair number on them. The mice, the rodents, and the squirrels do a fair number on them. We've definitely seen a big increase in rodent damage and canine, I'll call it. I'm pretty sure it's mostly coyote, but I'm sure fox probably chew on them too. They just don't have quite as stiff teeth as like coyotes do, so I think the coyotes are doing more of that gnawing, but I could see a fox gnawing on them too. But we've definitely seen an increase in that over the last few years. And a lot of the shed antlers we pick up, a lot of the bucks we pick up too, got the nose chewed off, the deadheads and stuff like that. So, but we're finding them typically later on in the season. So, We're typically out there, depending on when we get warm up, we're watching the cameras, we're seeing when 75 to 80% is kind of where I kind of put it at. 75-80% of the bucks are shed out. Specifically, if I'm watching um, a specific buck or group of bucks on a camera or two, um, sometimes I'll get in there ahead of time if I know they dropped early, and I got a really good feeling that like I know where that is. But I very rarely pick up ones through the snow. I'm still mostly doing a lot of habitat work that time of year, pruning out fruit trees, cutting some non-desirables down, thinning out invasives, a whole bunch of different things you could be doing, I think, in January and February and even early March before you start beating the ground for sheds. Winter scouting, a lot of consulting now this time of the year, January, February, March, April, and then May usually. Um, I kind of either take off or kind of take it in spurts with turkey season, and it just starts to green up, and then it slows down to only one or two a month, I would say, after that, going into the late spring and summer months, just because start getting into planting season for food plots, and after that spring thaw, um, the showings and the folks wanting to get on ground just start shooting up. That spring fever starts to set in, I call it, and folks want to get out of the house and want to start getting on some ground too. So we get a lot of that in that May April time period too. So we don't keep rolling as hard on the consulting and stuff like that because the real estate side ramps up. So, but being that that's the full time, you know, full time job is obviously dad first, but full and husband, but full time job for the money that comes in is the real estate and the consulting now. Um, so that's it. That's what I do. That's my passion. That's my love. That's what my wife um, is gracious enough to let me chase that dream, and I'm thankful for that every day. I'm thankful for her and my family that I have that support me, and my mom that helps with the babysitting and stuff like that, so I can go show ground or whatever I need to do on the day to day here and there sometimes when I don't have a stay at home day. Like today was a stay at home office day mixed with my daughter, so she helped me erase, and then this was all, I should have left it all colored up. But I told her, I said, you can color as long as it's on the whiteboard. So she was in here. I was working in the office. Um, and usually we just listen to, you know, Baby Shark or something kind of monotonous. I'm sure all you folks at home that have kids know. Try to limit the screen time, but try to leave background noise. I'm a big fan of music and background noise. Sometimes I'll just put music on and she'll sit around and she'll dance here in the office or whatever too. Bring the dolls in or whatever we got to do. Keep her occupied and keep the screen time down and be able to balance and keep just kind of rolling with what we got going. So I am pretty happy with where I ended up this year. Would have liked to have finish lined a few more, or kept a few more deals together. But everything all happens for a reason with that. Ended up doing 21 sides this past year for transactions, and did just under 1,400 acres, or sorry, just under 1,500 acres. Ended up with like 1,462, I think, is what it ended up being. I'll have to look at my notes. So yeah, that's 1,462 acres approximately. I helped folks buy or sell this year, so really, really happy with that number. I want to get that number up and want to get my total transactions up, obviously, going into next year. But really, really happy on that, and exceeded my goal for the year, being my first full year with the company, and then rolling into this next year. I think it's got nowhere to go but up. We're rolling a ton of pending inventory into this next year, so everything looks like it's on the big plus side. The team's got a lot of momentum and a lot of steam, and I'm really happy that I'm part of the Whitetail Properties company and the family, and they brought me on board, and watching the growth go, and it's going. So super happy about that. But and then the other thing I'm starting to do is trail cams this time of the year. I'm just kind of going through my mental kind of calendar right now. It's January. We're almost mid-January, so I'll probably go out. I already did a big camera tool up after the was it after the gun season or after the muzzleloader? I think it was after the or gun season. I went through and I retooled and rebatteried a lot of the cameras, so we should be in good shape to get them through. I'll probably go around and start checking out some cards here pretty soon. Probably as I'm working around doing the timber harvest stuff and some other things too. Maybe I'll move some around with that going on. Once we get through an area and we're moving on to a different section or a different ridge or whatever it might be, I might put some stuff back in those areas to see the activity that goes on into those areas. We got some really good before and after videos that'll be coming out on those. The part 2 of the timber marking was scheduled to go up last week. It's going to go up tonight. Tonight's the 14th? Yep, 14th. It's going up tonight at 9 p.m. Is when the drop is. That's scheduled. So I didn't know how long it was going to take today. Or, today when I started uploading it. So the 14th, 9 p.m. for the part 2 of the timber marking video. That'll be on the YouTube page. And then we'll put a link up on the Facebook pages for that. So yeah, if anybody has any questions on the real estate or habitat stuff, want to drop some comments or topics in for stuff you folks got going on, or big projects you got planned this upcoming year. We got quite a few, so we're going to be trying to balance all that coming in. We'll have some money coming in for future projects, possibly finishing off the pond project, getting the rest of the new towers built for the new blinds going in. Just a whole bunch of different stuff going on. I have a whole list of stands that are coming out or getting moved. So I think that's going to be kind of rolled around a little bit. So I don't know if I'll have as many total stands for this next year. But some of the stands are definitely right where I want them, and then other ones have never produced, or I just haven't gotten back into pulling them out, even though I check them every year because the wind's swirly or just as not as good of a spot. I think there's going to be better spots, or there is better spots now that we've done some habitat changes from when we put those stands in 5, 6, 8 years ago, whatever it might be. There's stands on the farm that I've still never sat in, that I've put up. Some of them, like I said, 5, 6, 8 years ago. Which is crazy to think of, but some of those stands are ones that you never know you could go in it, and that's the one where you kill that good one that time. So we talk about that a lot, that I've only killed. There's only 2 stands that I've killed more than 1 buck out of, and that would be the turnaround blind, and that's just because that spot is a perfect X of movement and a lights out location, and it's just going to get better. With the more stuff we're kind of building around that, it turns into the main central hub of the farm, I guess, if you will. So more deer are going to die out of that blind and then in and around that area. Maybe not necessarily from that tree, because I've killed. It depends on what you call a stand. From an individual stand, like I've killed 2 in the tower. I killed 1 like 100 yards from that tower, and then I've killed. Well, Dad's killed 1 300 yards from that tower. I've killed a couple to the north of that tower. There's actually a spot south of that tower that we've had tons of opportunity at good deer at, and we just never got the right shot opportunity to kill one out of. So, and that'll change too with this timber harvest. So I think that spot will improve, and possibly produce one. I'm hoping one of these times. Every time I sit that stand, I'm like, it's due. It's due for a good one. And I passed a really, really good 3-year-old out of that stand a couple years ago that a lot of people gave me a lot of flack for, but the deer turned into a heck of a 4-year-old. It blew up really nice, and was going to be on the top of the list that year, and got shot by a youth hunter. So, and I'm super happy for him. Made a great shot, knocked him right down in the field, perfect. So that worked out good. But yeah, that spot south of turnaround should be good. And then the stand where I shot my first buck out of in the little hardwoods, right after we did a timber harvest. We had a bunch of tops and some new bedding that created along the adjacent kind of surrounding border of that little hardwood blip there. When we did an ash cut in that area, and then there was historical data in there that I went in and hunted with the correct wind location, because you got to have a funky east wind to sit that little wood lot. And good buck was in there, buck we called George, and that's only the second. It was the second buck I killed out of that tree. Um, Other than that, everything else has been a one buck. Every other stand I've only ever killed a buck out of, or no bucks out of, I guess you could call it. And then there's some other spots where I can go, you know, any day of the year, literally January through December. You know, if we could hunt year round and you could kill, does out of it. But for the mature buck side of it, it's it's either you got that right spot where that right extra movement is, and we don't have pinch points, you know, other than through habitat manipulation. We don't have like a big hedgerow finger that's between two ag fields that every buck cruises through during the rut. We don't have any of that. We just have the habitat features that kind of balance into that. Comment rolled in on the YouTube side of it. Sorry, that's over on this screen. I didn't see it. Meyer Dixon tuning in says, do you think the overall harvest numbers will be up from the first year of crossbow allowed during all of archery? So I have a crazy statistic, and it is because the total number of folks was down historically, because we're first year bringing it back at Heritage for the buck contest. But we only had one gun entry. We had multiple multiple archery entries, and but we only had one gun entry. Um, so if you would have shot even a spike, up until the last day, a little spoiler alert, you could have had a shot at taking home the big buck title there, because we weren't seeing. And I know a lot of folks said that they didn't see the numbers nearly they did in gun season as they typically do. I think that could be just an ebb and flow year. Could be folks looking to blame somebody or something else. Everybody's always quick to say the DEC's wrecking it, my neighbors wreck it, everything else like that. Coming from somebody that looks at people's properties when they're buying, or looking at their property when they have me come in to like lay it out, look at it from a different hunting lens. A lot of people are their own worst enemy when it comes to it, and a lot of the stuff that we first did on our farm, I wouldn't do again. There's some stuff that we spent a lot of time and for a good amount of dollars on that did not work. And I'll be the first one to tell you that there's stuff that we did that you know was spinning wheels or wasting time and money. So that's where thinking critically and getting the right plan going forward. Just always, it's always changing and evolving. Just because that's the plan on this day right here. We get a major wind event, ice storm, something like that rolls in. That plan's got to change. We get a spring where it's unseasonably wet, kind of like we had this year, where it just kind of thawed out quick and then it was wet. We had to shift gears and change the plan for what we were doing with that pond project. Stuff's always changing. Going back probably 10 years ago now or better, a piece of property to the south of ours that was all good bedding, mixed habitat, turns into a 70-acre freaking ag field. How's that change the dynamics of your neighborhood? You got to look at all those things, and you got to kind of assess that and how that changes the way that you kind of manage or make those changes to your property. But that's a good question. I think it's gonna, if the crossbow numbers are thrown in with the archery, I will say that it will increase the archery take per their numbers, the way they divide that data. I don't know if it's going to have killed more bucks or not, because I'll two-part this. I don't think it'll change. Let me finish my statement. I don't think it'll change the total number of bucks more than a few percent here or there, plus or minus. Um, for total, I think the archery buck take will go up. I think that'll probably be a double-digit change. I'm pretty confident in that to say that I think that the buck take will have gone up double digits in archery season. But total for the state of bucks harvested, I don't believe will take that much of an increase, more than a seasonable, increase or decrease average as a whole. So, and you got to think, so we're not talking equal pies either. There's still more firearm hunters that I know of. I haven't read any current reports yet. Like I said, I'll be curious to see what these numbers show from the DEC based on license sales, because now you have to have the archery course to shoot with the crossbow, um, to hunt with that. So I think that'll make a big change in the way that there's the number of hunters reported. Um, so we're dealing with a bigger section of the pie for total firearm hunters than we are for a much smaller pie for archery, including crossbow now hunters. Um, so if you see a 10% increase here, it might only have it decreased. 10% archery increase might only be a decrease of a couple percent, 1 or 2% of the gun take, because it's coming out of a much larger pie to get that 10% change in individuals, if that makes sense. Um, Total for the state, I don't know if it'll go up or down. I think it may, but that ebbs and flows every year. You can watch it over the 10-year rolling average, see that changes year to year to year. So the biggest thing, and I know people are going to say people don't report their tags. People don't report their tags. We should be $1. Um, you know, we've been on this merry-go-round conversation before with this. Um, I think there should be, obviously it is mandatory reporting, but I think there should be a mandatory report before tag issue every year. That's something I've kind of advocated from since day one with it, and they said there's no way to implement it. Well, it's as simple as a text alert where it's like, or an email. And I know, or mail for the Amish or Mennonite or folks that don't do technology or whatever. Basically make it a text opt-in or whatever. But before you get your tag for 2026, you fill out, hey, it says that you didn't report a deer harvest. Is this true or not? And if it's a no, I did shoot a doe or I did shoot my buck or whatever it is, great. The DEC then has better numbers to make their management decisions with. And that's something where they're going off of this estimated 10% or whatever that number is. I forget what the actual number is. It says it in the annual report is what they believe their numbers are based off of an escalated percent off of what is reported. I think it's more like 10 to 16. That number's kind of sticking in my head. I would look at the report because they um, put that standard rate at the bottom of what they escalated off of in those reports. If you read the fine print on those reports, so I'm a big fan of that. The $1 thing, when we broke down that data, it was like 0.0001% of hunters, or it was like 1 in 10,000 or something killed both bucks, based on all of it was like one of might have been 8,000. I'd have to go back and look at the numbers when we crunched that, but it was like 1 in 8,000 hunters in New York killed both bucks, and like 1 in, I forget what it was, 1 in 200 or something killed one buck or something like that. Um, I should pull those numbers. We'll do a whole number crunch when the DEC releases that report. Typically, it's sometime over the winter, um, and we'll do a number breakdown on that and break down the $2 thing and everything. I think it's great opportunity for folks. A lot of people say they're not as picky with the first buck or this, that, or the other thing, and you know that's where it comes down to. If it's legal, ethical, safe, I don't have a problem with it. Unfortunately, you know, there's people that are going to use and abuse it. People saying with these paper tags, you just print out 10 more. Well, that guy never reported the first one anyway. So it doesn't matter if he can print out 10 more. It's not like he's going to go through the trouble of printing 10 more tags to put on those bucks just because he put the first one on the buck. That's not how that That's not how those individuals work. You know, the people that say that, there's nobody printing 10 tags to tag $10 because nobody's tagging $10. The people that are shooting $10, they're like the poaching ring that was busted a couple years ago, where they got 10 of them up in the attic of the barn, or 20 of them, or 30 of them, or whatever it is. Those are the folks that abuse the system. Those are the folks that are abusing the resource. It's not the folks that are out there shooting, their buck every year or $2 a year or whatever it is, legally and ethically. That's not the case at all, in my opinion. You know, and I'm open to conversation to other people's point of view on it, but that's just kind of my real world kind of eye lens into it that I see it as. So, Meyer says if the new crossbow law doesn't increase deer take, what's the DEC's next action to increase deer harvest? I think it's a great question. Love that question. Um, that's kind of a didn't work. What now? Um, is the nuts and bolts of that, and the answer to that is you got to get a better reporting system. You got to incentivize. You got to do something else. I think a big thing to increase harvest is first and foremost always is education. I think it needs to be something that's talked about at these youth events. I think it's something that needs to be talked about in your hunter safety course. You should be able to put it into that online program because there's very little, if any, in-person courses anymore that talk about identify. I mean, we were never taught to identify in our hunter safety course a mature doe from a fawn. Um, and the easiest way I tell people is, does the deer have a 2 liter bottle for a head, or does it have a simple 16-ounce head? And if you look at them, it's pretty darn close. If you got a big old 2 liter head, you know, it's a big old doe. I don't have a fawn skull in here, but you get the point. You know, look for that big head. Look for that big square body, rectangle body. Sorry. Look for that big suitcase, not a briefcase. That's what I tell folks when they're coming out to doe hunt and stuff like that. So I think increasing harvest will be education and the benefits of that. Um, Obviously, I do like where, and everybody's saying that, and it's crazy to me. Um, I can show you the pictures. I can show you, how it's changed with the amount of good deer that are in um, neighborhoods or client takes from when I first started consulting, even um, how that's changed over the last 10 years. You know, back in the 80s when my dad was killing 100-inch deer consistently, everybody looked at him like he was, awesome. And back then, 100-inch deer, 2-year-old, 3-year-old, whatever he was the deer. Like, there was not deer getting that old. People don't, I don't think this new generation has seen that much of a change or had enough of those conversations with those folks that hunted in the 70s and the 80s and even the 90s. Yeah, there was big deer getting killed. There was always big deer getting killed. But now with online and social media and all that stuff, you know, and that's why me and Nate have never been inch chasers. Nate is he's 10%. The top 10% deer on the farm where he hunts is the deer. If that deer jacks him up, that's his deer. It doesn't matter. It's not a numbers game. For that. For me, it's estimated age and history, and chasing and figuring out specific deer. Um, Most of the time when I go into a spot, I'm going after, a certain deer, literally. This year was a little bit different. Just happened to be the first good 4-year-old that I estimated that offered me a shot. I did let a couple really good 3-year-olds walk this year. Some really nice bucks walk. A couple of them got tagged too during the gun season, which that always happens. But again, if you were telling me that there was, half a dozen 3-year-old or better getting taken on, a country block, you know, 2,000 square acre area or whatever, um, 10 years ago, I'd have been like, hey, oh my gosh, dude. Like that's insane. And now it's like, yeah, we can do it. You know, folks are letting them go. That kind of that hump, if you want to call it a hump, that I see with guys is the 100-inch hump or the 3-year-old hump. That's that, and I'm not saying it's a step that you have to take. That's just where that kind of step is letting 100-inch deer walk, letting 3-year-olds walk. Like that's the step where a lot of guys want to hunt at, and I get it, man. I want to kill deer every year. I love chasing bucks. I do like watching them as much as I like killing them too. Killing them's better, but I want to kill the one I'm after. That's just my personal what I hunt for, as well as filling the freezer, and then going out there. And then the past couple of years, the way we manage our does, um, I think our doe numbers are pretty sustained currently with how we kind of hunt them and kind of have them arranged and stuff like that on the property. Um, we hit them really hard, like 8, 10 years ago, like really freaking hard. Double-digit doe years, for a year or two total between like me and dad and stuff. Um, I think we could kill, what is it, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. I think we can kill 8 each, with the right amount of sign tags and stuff like that. So, there was a couple years where I was stacking, dude. I mean, this is funny. I went through this the other day. These are all tags. These are all doe tags. There are no buck tags in there. These are all doe tags off of deer I killed. I've killed a lot of does. I've killed way more does than I've killed bucks. Um, that's for sure. That's for darn sure. Um, and now with the paper, it's hard. That's what the Ziploc baggies are in there for, is the paper tags the last couple years. But we haven't had to take those big drastic numbers. One, we don't set a preseason goal of shooting 6 does, 8 does, 10 does. We don't put a number on it. Because what we were doing with that is we were shooting, um, we ended up shooting fawns, because of that. And once in a while, a guest will come out, or maybe I misjudged one, or dad misjudged one, or whatever it might be, and we whack a fawn. Um, because it came in with another smaller fawn or something, and you go, wow, that size difference, it looks different. Which you got to watch that, because a lot of times twin fawns, mom gets pushed off by a buck, and then you got button buck and little sister, and he's a little bit bigger, and he looks a lot nicer. And I've done that. Shot the button buck because he looked nicer and bigger. Um, but that's where glass, and that's where, I've walked back to the truck before when I don't have my binoculars with me. Now it's a lot easier because it's, in my bag. It's right on top. It's the last thing that goes into my scent duffel, um, is that. So, but yeah, it happens, dude. You shoot fawns, you shoot button bucks. It happens. If it hasn't, then you haven't killed enough deer yet. Um, if you killed 50 deer and you haven't killed a fawn ever, man, you got some good eyes. Or you've been using glass all along. So, um, yeah, big thing is, when folks come out if they're offered the opportunity to come out, you got to bring glass with you. You got to bring binoculars, not just a rangefinder. You got to bring binoculars, and you got to look that deer over. And I've been in the blind with guys or in the stand, and deer's coming in, and they're starting to come on around, and it's just like, just wait, just be patient. Like I said, biggest kind of things that I tell young hunters is get that woodsmanship, get out in the woods, start learning, listening, take that time, get away from a screen a little bit, and just learn about the woods. Anything that you can learn in the woods, you can apply to being a better hunter, being a better person. Just watching how stuff interacts naturally with each other, and how the balance is, and applying that into your life of balance. How the balance is, and applying balance, you could just it just makes it a more, just awesome experience, being able to bring that all together. And then the patience of it, How many guys that have been in the standard blind meet, and I'm talking guys that have, killed deer and stuff before, not just first time hunters, because the first time hunters nowadays, I'm not just actually nowadays, but some of the first time hunters I brought out that have killed their first deer are some of the more calm than some of the seasoned guys that have killed deer, and I think a lot of that is just it's their first time. Maybe they're a little nervous, maybe that something like that. So, but I think there's a lot more patience that needs to happen. Even while you're hunting, and more so while you're scouting and while you're learning, that it doesn't just happen. A lot we're in instant gratification generation, society, whatever you want to call us. And I think the big thing with that is you just need to be patient once in a while and just, know that it doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen in a week. Um, Same thing with, killing better deer. It might not be that first year. It might be, 4, 5, 6 years before you kill your first deer or your first good buck or your first antlered deer. Whatever it might be. Like that stuff takes time. Everybody's situation's different. The property you hunt's different. Everybody's time off is different, and your opportunity is different. Um, but like I said, going into like that last bit of season was just stay your course. Don't go dropping your experience and dropping your goal or whatever by shooting a deer on the last day that you passed on the first day. You know, if that deer was on the list from day one, perfect. And if that deer was on the pass list from day one, you know, you wanna grow and you wanna hold yourself to a higher accountability and you know, kind of push yourself to be better and to be a better woodsman and stuff like that. Start watching deer. Start letting a deer or two go by you. Um, and I'm saying this after the initial harvest your first deer, and that should be your choice. If you don't want to shoot that doe, I know people that don't want to shoot does for whatever reason. That's a different choice. That's your tag. That's your choice, as long as it's legal. Same thing. I know people don't want to shoot fawns. Completely understand and respect that. Don't want to shoot does that have fawns with them. Totally understand and respect that. Um, you know, just kind of looking at the lens of why, but different beliefs, different folks, or whatever with it. But I think there's a lot of good that can come from, just like I said, just being patient with it, um, and not holding folks to your standard or your expectation is also huge, and it needs to be something that's talked about more of in our hunting groups and our hunting circles and whatever is make the circles a lot bigger to talk to and have more folks in these circles that support each other. Um, I I don't care if you shot a spike or a button buck or a 6 point or a 17 point, dude, awesome. Or for the ladies out there, congratulations or whatnot with it. I'm so happy that you got that harvest done. You put the deer in the back of the truck, meat's in the freezer, everything worked out good. It's legal, it's ethical. You got a little bit of that outdoor high out of it too, that goes right there with it as well. Um, but I go into the woods with a goal. I go into the woods with the goal of, going after that target buck, or if it's late season and I'm looking for big doe groups to drop the doe numbers down a little bit. Um, I still go in with a goal. I don't really go hunt or sit in the woods. When I'm hunting, I'm hunting. When I go out there to cut bedding area, I'm going out there to cut bedding area. When I'm going out there to plant my food plots, I'm planting food plots. When I'm going out there to do my scouting, I scout. I go out there with a goal, and that way you can keep yourself accountable for your goals and keep moving toward those goals, because then you can grow those goals and move on to the next step with it. Another comment rolls in 10 years, will New York be facing CWD and EHD like the Midwest and South? Um, the CWD, I hope we don't have any new, because I mean we've had some historic cases out towards Syracuse way, that were in a captive facility. I hope we don't start discovering CWD because I hear a lot of these areas are getting whacked out by sharpshooters and just decimating deer populations. And, I don't think that that's a right, fair management to the resource to go out there and just eliminate deer from the landscape just because you identified a disease. I don't think there's a whole ton of research that's been done on it. Um, I'm not that well read onto it, to be given a professional opinion. Um, I don't think we've seen a large growth of either in 10 years. I know we had a little bit of EHD pop up in New York last 10 years. We've had several cases, probably 100. Plus, we've had more downstate than upstate, and that could be more of this the seasonally warm because it's transferred by midges, and that kind of can move a lot faster across the landscape, I think, than CWD. Um, Mostly because CWD has got to be spread by um, like prion or something like that in the soil with it. And deer don't migrate like insects do. Populate and migrate, populate and migrate and populate. You can kind of picture it going up. Like you see those disease maps on like The Walking Dead and how it just erupts out of there. Um, I think CWD is more of it's a chronic, obviously, so it takes time to kill the animal. It is fatal, 100% fatal. That's been documented. A deer that gets it dies. Whether that's 60 days, 6 years, the deer will die. There's no definitive timeline, just like there's no definitive timeline with some of the diseases we get as humans. Um, but with EHD, they can survive it or it kills them. Seems to say with the research that more bucks die with it um, than does. We just don't have a ton of it here prevalence wise. Um, and maybe that's because we do such a good job shooting deer. Um, I mean, we kill some of the most deer and most deer per square mile in the entire country. So, you know, for all of our faults, there is a fair amount of good things to say about New York hunting. And I know everybody thinks, we should be like Iowa or should be like Kansas or whatever. And it's like, okay, what's the goal? Is the goal just to put more inches antler? Just have a bigger dick measuring contest? You hunt for you hunt for what your goals are, and you do the best with what you got, you know, and you look at how you can improve that situation with what you got to make it better. That's all you can do, you know. If you complain that there's no 4-year-olds and you knowingly shoot 2 and 3-year-olds, that's like the meme of the guy that goes, "There's no 4-year-olds," shoots the guy on the couch, and he's like, and that's like the meme above it says 2-year-olds. Why are there no 4-year-olds? That's kind of the reason behind that. So that's my soapbox on it. If you want to kill spikes, kill spikes. You want to kill 3-year-olds, kill 3-year-olds. Doesn't matter. If it's legal, ethical, safe, go for it. That's it. That's my soapbox for the night. So thank you all for this. Yeah, I think that covered everything. Plans for this upcoming season, kind of where I'm at, what I'm looking to do this time of the year. First projects are going to be apple tree release around the edges of the food plot extensions I made. Um, Tree tube cleanups will be more in the spring months. Um, Fun thing to do with the little one. Might get out and do some stuff with her in the sled and stuff like that, but I'm real limited on being able to drop trees and stuff like that when I got her with me and or running big equipment like a saw. So probably more stuff like tree tube cleanouts, make sure there's no mice in them and stuff like that. This time of the year I typically bring the tube up a little bit so the mice don't nest right along the ground under them. Peppermint candies in the bottom is big this time of the year to keep the rodents out of them. Bark guards if I'm pulling the tree tubes up. That's another thing I do. You can either wrap them with, there's plastic bark guards, which those work okay, or you can use metal mesh and then just staple it together or zip tie it together. That's what I use a lot on bark guards on the bottom. Keep the animals from girdling them. Um, but yeah, so. And then the other thing is working with your planning for this upcoming year. Most of the counties have now announced that their tree and shrub sales are going on. Most of those trees are sourced from Saratoga Nursery or nurseries local, like Meadowview Nursery out of Naples. I know they've supplied to those um, countywide tree and shrub sales in the past. So, great time to get conifer and deciduous trees, shrubs. You can get wildflower packs. You can get pollinator packs. You can get whatever. You can get different flowers, birdhouses, barley straw for your pond. I mean, you can get all sorts of different stuff depending on your county. Every county is a little different what they offer. Birdhouses, bat houses. You can get all sorts of stuff. So that's something to look into too as well. That just popped into my head. So random thoughts for the night. So I want to thank everyone for tuned in. I know we've been in a Verizon outage situation. I know my phone still says emergency calls only. Um, so I'm gonna try to figure out how to get a hold of my mom to make sure she's coming to watch my daughter tomorrow morning. I think she still will show up because it's a scheduled day for her to come watch Nora. So, um, but yeah. So all right, everybody. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for the comments and questions. I appreciate it. We appreciate the support. 100 Proof Whitetails, me and Nate. Um, we'll have more stuff rolling out for folks with content, info, and if you have any questions or topics you want to see featured, we'd love to do it. We're going to do some hunt breakdowns too in future episodes. We just got to sit down and find some time to draw it up on a whiteboard. Um, and we're going to clip up some shorts. We clipped up some shorts from the last episode. We're going to drop those here before the next episode and clip up some from this one, I'm sure, too. So thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate the support. If you're interested in sponsoring the show, let us know. And I would say Nate's line, but he's not here, so I'm going to say it. All right, everyone. Be safe out there. See you.